Live from Kelloland Media Group, a Kelloland News Special, Mayoral Debate. Now your moderators, Don Jorgensen and Bridget Bennett.
Good evening. 1 week from today, Sioux Falls voters will select the city's next mayor.
Before you head to the polls, we want to help you get to know the candidates. Over the next hour, we're going to be asking incumbent Paul Tenhaken, along with challengers Taniza Islam and David Zakaitis, your questions. First, they each have 1 minute to tell you about themselves and why they believe they should be the next mayor.
And we drew numbers just minutes ago to determine the order. We're going to begin with David Zakaitis, who has 1 minute for opening statements.
I'm here to make the world a better place. Really, that's everything. I want to create open, practical, honest, caring government. That's got to be the loftiest goal that any mayoral candidate could possibly have. I wish we had these qualities now, but we don't. There's a problem with bribery in Sioux Falls, and I've documented that on my website. You can go to www.davidzfrommayor.org/bribery. I've asked for investigation repeatedly, but gotten nowhere. If we could push this stuff out of the way, if we could have honest government, then we've got tremendous capabilities, and we can resolve affordable housing, we can reduce crime, we can reduce addiction, but it all starts with actually caring about what the people want and caring about honest, practical, open government.
Thank you.
Next, we go to Mayor Paul Tenhaken.
All right, Don, Bridget, thanks for having me tonight. To your viewers, thanks for tuning in. The great thing about being an incumbent, it's a blessing and a curse, is you have a track record by which you can run off of. So the past 4 years in our city have been incredibly challenging 4 years, but incredibly exciting 4 years. We've had flooding and pandemics, tornadoes, social justice challenges. And yet here we sit today in 2022 with 19% year-over-year sales tax growth, 1.8% unemployment. We have a police force that's nearly fully staffed and at authorized strength. We have crime that decreased in almost every category this past year. And we have a city that's shown incredible resilience. And I've been proud to be at the helm during that growth over the last 4 years. I look forward to sharing with the viewers tonight why I think I'm suited to continue for another 4 years in this job. And look forward to the conversation.
Thank you. All right, now let's go to Taniza Islam for our final opening statement. Ms. Islam, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting and having us here today. I was born and raised in Michigan to hardworking immigrant parents from Bangladesh. I have a bachelor's degree, a law degree, and a master's degree. We moved here 10 years ago, and my husband serves as a doctor at the VA, and our 2 boys attend Sioux Falls public schools. In 2017, I jumped head first to tackle some of the most divisive issues we saw in Pierre, bringing together stakeholders such as the Fraternal Order of Police, Sioux Falls Chamber, legislators, and everyday people to defeat over 85% of bigoted bills and worked 3 years to add Spanish to the driver's licensing exam. I have a track record of bringing the right people together to solve our most pressing issues. I never complained. I never said I didn't sign up for this. This is the type of mayor that Sioux Falls deserves, and I know I'm the right person to lead.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, before we begin our questions, we want to just go over a couple of rules.
There is no time limit for your answers, but you can't cut each other off, and we may cut in if you get a little bit off topic.
Okay, now our first question kind of deals with the city council. Today, Councilwoman Janet Brecky held a news conference claiming that she had received intimidating texts from the mayor about texts that her campaign sent. Mr. Tenhaken, we'd like to give you the opportunity to respond to the claims that you treat women differently than men.
Well, we have a little phrase in City Hall every 2 years, and we call it silly season. And it gets to be silly season where candidates and people running for office about a week before election come up with claims, and today was one of those examples. I've been called a lot of things over the years, but intimidating is not one of them. I have a female chief of staff. I have a female CEO that succeeded me at my prior company. I really don't buy into these political divisive charades, and I don't think the public really wants that either. You know, what I really did is we have an ordinance on the books where city leaders, elected leaders, we can't solicit our city staff to be part of our campaigns. We can't ask them to put signs in our yards. We can't ask them to give to our campaigns. One of my counselors was violating that. We need a fair playing field in government. So I called her out on it. I said, you need to stop this. This is an ethics violation. It's an ordinance violation. And that snowballed into some quite honestly, some pretty scandalous claims that I'm intimidating to women. And so I take the high road. There's not much traffic up there. That's where I'm going to stay and live on this issue. And I just want to talk about the issues. I want to talk about public safety, infrastructure, housing, the things I think voters really care about.
Thank you, Mayor. And now we want to have Mr. Zakaitis and Ms. Islam also address kind of what you think your working relationship will be with your council if you were elected mayor. Mr. Zakaitis, we'll start with you.
One of the things I want to do first with City Council is invite them individually to have lunch. Just me and them, just to say hi and see how things are going, and to try to figure out what their main initiatives they would like to do for the coming 4 years. And if you start off that way, it'll be really easy to stay amenable and peaceful and practical and working together. And I'd like to meet with people, average citizens, and I'd also like city council members to meet with random citizens so that we're all in tune with what the people of Sioux Falls wants. And if that's the goal, then I see no reason for discord to pop up its ugly head, because we were working together from the start all the way to the end.
Ms. Islam, how do you see yourself working with the City Council?
Yeah, it's so critical as mayor to have an equitable relationship with all city councilors. The beautiful thing about city government is that it is nonpartisan. We are elected to serve the people and only the people. The mayor's job is to build relationships with our policymakers who are city councilors. I've heard from several city council people that they've been left out of the process and have seen their colleagues part of the process. Under my administration, I would treat each city council person equally.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, our second question now comes from Lori. Let's listen in.
What's your question?
What is the biggest challenge you see as our city continues to grow at this exponential rate?
All right, who would like to take that one first?
Lori, great question. It's an issue that, quite honestly, was a challenge when I took office 4 years ago, and it's grown even bigger, and that's housing and access to housing. It remains our #1 challenge. We had 7,000 people move to this city last year, and we can't keep up with the demand for housing. That's despite the fact that last year alone, we permitted more single-family homes, more multifamily units, more apartments than any time in the city's history. So we are cranking on housing as fast as we can to keep up with this insatiable demand, but it's not enough. So there's some solutions to that we can do at the local level. There's permitting things we can do. There's programs that we're doing to make sure we're moving homes from core developments that we have to infill instead of demolishing those homes. But we also have to recognize there's a lot of macro elements at play right now with record inflation and supply chain disruption and labor shortages. And raising interest rates, which is on the horizon. All those things are working against us. So it will continue to be an important issue. There's no one silver bullet that's going to solve that, but it's going to be 2 degrees of change on a lot of different fronts.
Ms. Islam, your answer next.
Yeah, as the mayor said, affordable housing has been an issue for a long time. This is not a new trend, and it was one of the campaign promises that the mayor made was to tackle this issue, and as he stated, has gotten exponentially worse over the last 4 years. The problem really is that there is no plan by the current administration to tackle affordable housing, which is different from workforce housing, is what the words that you'll hear the current administration talk about. I've been asking business leaders, when we enticed Amazon to come and build in our beautiful growing city, did we ask them to invest in essential infrastructure like affordable housing? And the answer has been no. And I've asked why, and it's because no one made the ask, and that's how business is done in Sioux Falls right now. When I become mayor, I will make that ask, because we need an influx of money to build. We are at capacity for building, but we can shift to building more affordable housing by incentivizing developers to build, because it's not profitable for them to build affordable housing. We can use those funds to assure that vulnerable people in our community who are low to moderate income, and more importantly, fixed income senior citizens have access to affordable housing, which is really the pinnacle issue. And then all these other issues that we've seen grown in our community, such as our growing houseless population, the increase in mental health instability in our community, all tied together. If everyone could have a house, we could really tackle all of those other issues.
Let's give Mr. Zakaitis a chance to chime in here now. What do you see as one of the biggest challenges facing our city?
I love the question. The biggest challenge in government in general is there's an excessive greed in our culture, and that's manifested in expensive elections. And as a result of this quandary, what happens is politicians basically have to sell their services to the highest bidder, and then we have problems, rampant corruption. A big example of corruption in Sioux Falls is the parking garage that's half built downtown. We had estimates that you could build a giant garage for $10 million, and instead of doing that, the city built a smaller garage for $21 million. And this garage was initiated by Mayor Mike Uther, but approved also by Mayor Paul Tenhaken, even though during city council meetings the public expressed strong disapproval of both. So the issue of expensive election is really a major driver of bad government. And we need to change who pays for elections if we want to have better government.
Can I rebut one point made earlier? And I was at the table with Amazon, so I'm probably more apt to speak to how that came together. We do ask these businesses to participate in housing programs, but in the case of like an Amazon, there's no incentives being offered. So you can make an ask, of course, but you don't have any metric or tool by which to hold them accountable to invest in your community if you're not giving them any incentives. So there seems to be a somewhat of a fundamental misunderstanding of how the economy works and how capitalism works and how the market works. So businesses want to come here, but putting the burden of infrastructure and housing on the backs of businesses has a negative impact on your economy. This economy has been incredibly resilient and incredibly philanthropic without putting the burden of infrastructure costs, housing costs on the backs of businesses. And so I think we'll continue to look at that as an option, but the market is really what's going to dictate and drive housing in this community.
Well, let's move on to our next question. Brian has another growth-related question. He's worried that not everyone is benefiting from the growth because it's causing things like rent and housing prices to rise, making it harder for many people to afford a lot of things.
The one question I would have for all the candidates is, what are you going to do for our citizens that aren't taking part in the growth and expansion and all the success that Sioux Falls has?
Mr. Zakaitis.
Now, getting back to what I said before about government working for not necessarily the right people, if you're not careful, you subsidize suburban sprawl with, new roads, new infrastructure, and that benefits largely people who already have a whole lot of money, who are busy building apartments and malls and such. But that doesn't necessarily benefit the people at the bottom of the social ladder who are having a hard time getting affordable housing. Again, so if you can fix who pays for elections, you can fix some of this dynamic, and you can direct more attention toward affordable housing. But if we, the people, decide to build more affordable housing, we can certainly do that. And I think we can do that at market rate if we're careful. The problem is the market encourages developers to build a whole lot of big, expensive houses, and if they can sell all of those, well, hey, why bother make a bunch of cheap little houses that you don't make as much money on? I think if the city government decided to implement some sort of quota system that says for so many big houses, you've got to build this many little houses, I think then we could build affordable housing at market rate, which means then that you could build a large quantity of affordable housing. If you have to subsidize it, chances are you won't get very much of it. But if it's market rate, if it's a requirement, then you're working with the market to change the way the market works a little bit and create a large volume of affordable housing that people can own and thereby build equity over generations.
Ms. Islam?
Yes, so kind of tying in the previous question to this question, I don't believe that the burden of our infrastructure should be on business, but they should be part of the solution. I understand how capitalism works and how our economy works very well. What also works is social responsibility amongst our corporation, which is also a growing trend that we're seeing across the country. And so the idea really would be to have a housing fund where there is private-public partnership that goes into the fund. In my nonprofit world, that's called an endowment, where the interest from that endowment is what carries through sustainable funding for basic infrastructure needs, such as affordable housing. So that would create a steady stream, because when we depend on federal funds, like we've seen the influx of federal funds over the last 2 years specifically, that money is going to be gone and it's not going to be renewed. So we have to figure out ways to create sustainable funding for basic essential needs like affordable housing. And so in that way, when we signal to the community and developers that there is a sustainable funding source, we can then incentivize using other resources that the city does have, other federal grants that affordable housing organizations do have, to work collaboratively and collectively to really tackle this issue. Because if we don't tackle this issue in this moment, we will continue to see a growth in our houseless population, and we will continue to see how the city is currently developing, which is that they're sprawling out, and that adds more cost to our infrastructure and sustainability as a growing city.
Mr. Tenhaken.
Well, more affordable housing. That's why I led with this as being the most important topic that we're going to face in the next 4 years. There's been several initiatives that I think are worth highlighting, one being the Veterans Tiny Home community that we're building by Joe Foss Field to house 30 homeless vets. That's going to be our first foray into the tiny home movement in Sioux Falls. Will allow us to see how permitting works, how building works. Will help with some of our homeless vets that are experiencing chronic homelessness in Sioux Falls. We've expanded funding to our single-family home revitalization program. So people that have homes that are dilapidated, they maybe need some work done to them. There's grant dollars that the city can provide to them to make investments in their home, to keep them in those houses and in those homes. But again, I think we have to remember that there's a macro element at play in all this. And that is, you show me a city in this country right now that is not struggling with affordable housing. It is the topic du jour amongst all my mayoral colleagues all across this country, and we all talk about it regularly. But Good Hire recently ranked Sioux Falls the most affordable city to live in the country. And they looked at mid-market population cities, and they ranked us that. Housing was part of it, but they looked at it, what's our wage growth been like? What's the cost of living been like? What our energy prices look like? And so you have to look at the totality of the economy. So I don't have just rose-colored glasses on and not saying everything's fine and dandy. But the economy here is still very strong. A lot of empathy towards building up our workforce housing, low-income housing, accessible housing, whatever you want to call it. But we've weathered this very well, and we're going to continue to weather it well, assuming the feds can help us with getting interest rates under control, getting inflation under control. Some of these elements that, quite honestly, they're above a mayoral level to solve.
All right, thank you. Our next question will go to Ms. Islam. Finding affordable housing isn't the only challenge right now. Maddie says finding affordable daycare, childcare is a problem.
What's your question for the candidates?
I would like to ask the candidates how they are going to support young families with the rising costs of childcare.
Ms. Islam.
Yeah, thanks, Maddie, for that question. Being a mom of 2 boys, 7 and 11, I and my family have dealt with this personally. When we first moved to Sioux Falls 10 years ago, we were looking for childcare, and at that time my husband was a resident and we weren't making much money. Even as an attorney, I wasn't able to find a job here in Sioux Falls. And we couldn't figure out how we were going to send our oldest to daycare if we couldn't pay our rent and other utilities. This became a real issue, even for a family that was starting in their careers here. And I know that that issue has grown exponentially over the last 10 years since since I first started dealing with it. And it's critical to understand that this issue of childcare access also impacts our workforce shortage. South Dakota has one of the highest percentages of women in the workforce. With our extreme workforce issue, it is critical for the city to lead the conversation, get the right stakeholders involved, like I've done in the past on different issues, bring together the school district, nonprofits, business leaders who are directly impacted by workforce shortage to come together to come up with a collaborative solution. The problem right now is the city is not leading in this discussion. This is a city issue that needs city leadership to bring the right stakeholders to the table to figure out what the next step will be and lean on the experts in the community to figure out how we're going to, again, have public-private partnerships to either incentivize the cost, ask HR directors and employers to incentivize like we did, health insurance. Not all employers offered health insurance, but we got them there. We need to show employers, specifically here in Sioux Falls, with our unique, strong economy and our severe workforce shortage, that this is an opportunity to test what it could look like and set the tone nationally.
Mr. Tenhaken?
Yeah, childcare is a problem. Maddie's my former employee at ClickCrane, actually. Hey, Maddie, great question. Very big problem. And I have a lot of people in the community that also wonder if this is a government problem to solve. And what I mean by that is this is the private sector that's not meeting a demand that's in the community. They're not meeting the demand because the wages are too low in that sector. The workforce isn't there. It's not a glamorous job. It's a very hard and difficult job to do. So those discussions that Ms. Islam mentioned are happening. In fact, the school district and I have several collaborations on the horizon that if I serve a second term, I'll be excited to roll out that will look at out-of-school care, that will be potentially repurposing our community centers for more out-of-school care. And so these conversations happen, and they are happening. And so the question always is it the city's problem to solve, or is this a we problem to solve? And this is another one of those we problems to solve. City, county, school district, private partners like Compassion Childcare and nonprofit groups like that.
Mr. Zakaitis.
Discussion is one thing, solutions are another. It's nice to get people together to try to figure out what's going on, but it's more important to use that information to actually build a solution. Childcare is kind of difficult because it's a money problem, and there's never enough money to go around. People want city government to do more and more and more, but they don't want their taxes to go up to pay for more services. So it might be nice to say, oh yeah, the city government should support daycare so that we can have more working parents, but then where do you get the money from? And if we could legalize recreational marijuana, which we should do anyway, and tax it, which we should do anyway, well then we would have more money for, say, improved public transit and more money for, say, improved child care services. But I'm hesitant to say, oh yeah, the city should jump in and devote more resources to this, because that money is not there yet, and unless we find more money, I'm not about to say we can do something that I don't know that we can do. But given all of that, schools have after-school programs, and that can solve some of the problems for school-age children. But children who are not old enough to go to school, they're expensive to send to daycare, and that's just the way the situation is, and there's no way to get around that. If you have one person who makes enough money so that the other person can stay home and take care of the kids, that's the best way to do it because it's the best possible environment for children. If you have extended families where that situation exists, that's also great. The idea of nuclear families where you only have two people and maybe one's in prison or they're separated, well, that's just really hard to work with on an economic basis because there's not enough money and it's hard to get enough money. So maybe if we could encourage extended families or grandparents to get involved, we would have less need for subsidizing child care that we maybe don't have enough money to do anyway.
Thank you.
Could I just add a brief point to what I wanted to say? The reason the city needs to get involved in leading the discussion of this because of the severe ramifications if we don't lead that charge. I've talked to I've talked to child care experts in the community for several months now. And they're telling me that the wait list for infant care right now is over 1 year. And families are deciding not to have children because they cannot get into daycare. What ramification will that have for us in 20 years? If we're already at such a severe workforce shortage, we need to understand how all of these things connect together.
It's a big issue.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. We have to take a break now.
And we'll be right back with more of your questions for our Sioux Falls mayoral candidates next. Welcome back to our mayoral debate.
If you are just joining us, we are talking with the 3 candidates running for Sioux Falls' next mayor.
And our next question comes from Justin, who wants to know how you would help the homeless population. Listen in.
I would ask them what are their plans for dealing with the transient community and the homeless population that is currently in the streets.
Mayor Tenhaken, we'll start with you.
Yeah, great question, Justin. Thanks for asking it. We had 7,000 people move here last year, and with that growth has come a growth in our homeless population. And both Bishop Dudley, Union Gospel Mission, some of those nonprofits are seeing their census levels at record highs. And so I think we have to look at what's the responsibility of the city, what's the responsibility of nonprofits, what's the responsibility of our church community in helping our homeless community. And I think it starts with looking at what's the root cause of homelessness. Why is someone homeless? A lot of times when we look at our homeless community, there's a couple underlying issues that exist there. One is there's often an addiction issue that we're dealing with. There's often a mental health issue that is there as well. So we've spent the last couple of years opening the doors on a facility called The Link to serve people. A lot of them are in our transient community. That links people to resources if they're experiencing chronic mental health and addiction issues, treating that underlying cause. The house is the symptom. I need a place to stay is the symptom. What's the root cause of that? So The Link has done that. I mentioned earlier the Veterans Tiny Home community that is specifically going to be for homeless vets. I think we also have to look at the growing homeless community that we, over the last couple decades as a city, have consolidated our homeless services in a pretty tight area of our downtown. Well, now we're seeing the tension of development pushing east into that community, and there's a tension that's starting to exist. So we have to look at, is there a way to decentralize some of these services? I used the example the other night of the fact that at Bishop Dudley Hospitality House, which is a great organization, in the back of the Bishop Dudley Hospitality House is where families stay, where kids and mothers and families get to stay. Well, is that an environment for families, or is there a better place where we could treat homeless families and serve homeless families in the community rather than expanding on that campus for more homeless or more rooms for families, for instance? So I think those are some of the solutions, looking at the root cause of that, as well as how can we continue to offer the right services, but maybe decentralizing those in a way so that that tension we're seeing with our downtown eases a little bit.
Mr. Zakaitis, how do you help the homeless population and transients?
We have homeless shelters in Sioux Falls. There's a Bishop Dudley house and the St. Francis house. But apparently when you drive down the street, there's got to be a hole in those homeless shelters because we see people on street corners regularly looking for money. So obviously the needs of those particular homeless people are not being met by current city plans. Well, the thing to do then is to try to figure out what those needs are, and if they need a shelter designed just for those individual problems, then we should build them one. And it's my guess that we've got problems with addiction that are not being met very well by the current shelters. I know the city has a shelter for the worst of the chronic alcoholics. It's the Safe Home. And they built that years ago because it was cheaper to give people a place to live than to rescue them from near death with emergency room visits. So maybe we need to build another shelter just for the for the alcoholics who are not bad enough for the Safe Home, but not safe enough for the Bishop Dudley House. We need to meet people where they are, let them be as they are now, and then give them a long-term path toward improved mental health and improved integration into society. And apparently that's not what we're doing now. To talk a little bit towards Mayor Paul Tenhaken's 30 homeless houses for homeless vets, that's a nice start. I'll admit the 30 tiny houses is a good start, but we need to develop a program that will scale that to maybe more like 1,000, because we've got a lot of poor people who don't really have a good place to stay, and we need to build a lot of houses for that problem.
Okay. Ms. Islam?
A fundamental difference between the current mayor and myself is I believe the root cause of the problem of our houseless population is not having a house. if we started with providing a tiny home or whatever facility that that person could go to, then we can use models similar to Santa Ana, California, where they're providing a home for a houseless person and they're building services around that. The tiny home project is an interesting concept, is specifically for our homeless vets. My husband is a physician at the VA, and I hear those stories every day. But I'm curious to why the Veterans Administration was not a part of that conversation on the need to bring a tiny home project to Sioux Falls to serve our homeless vets when the VA is actually meeting that service right now. So we really need to look at what are the key issues. I had a great experience going to Bishop Dudley this past week and talking to a woman who is neither addicted to anything or neither has a mental health illness. Her issue is she's stuck in that bracket where she doesn't qualify for affordable housing and can't get into a home with a voucher system because there's no homes right now. There's no rentals. There's nowhere for our very vulnerable populations living in the middle, if you will, in that gap to access a house. So we need to think more broadly on what houseless population looks like and who they are, because these are folks who have jobs. They need public transportation to get to them because they can't walk there right now. And so, again, these are all issues that are so intrinsically interconnected.
Mr. Teneke, you would like to respond to that?
Yeah, you know, I don't know where to start. The VA and the vets were certainly a part of our vets homeless community. We brought all the partners together for that project. And it is a start. And that's the thing with all these solutions we're talking about tonight. We want to focus on the silver bullet solution, and they don't exist. There's 2 degrees of change, and I tell my team this all the time. We need to hit singles. Everyone wants to step up to the plate and hit a home run. That veterans tiny home community is a single. It's going to help 30 people. Okay? Increasing our single home revitalization program fund, it's a single. It's going to make the difference for 10 to 20 families this year. A lot of singles to be had in government. And so that's what we've been focused on the last several years. Is there a need for more homes? Absolutely. Absolutely there's need for more affordable housing. The market makes it very challenging to erect that right now and put that in place because while the demand is there, the supply is not there because the supply in the market is dictating higher end homes. So we're going to keep working on this issue, and it's going to continue to be the #1 issue that I'll face in the years ahead.
Well, I have a follow-up question to this discussion. In last year, we've seen some signs go up in Sioux Falls addressing panhandling. Is this effectively handling the situation on the streets?
Mr. Zakaitis.
It made a dent because we see less panhandling now than before the signs, but it's not an effective solution. And I talked about this a little bit before. Apparently, the people who are panhandling are not having their needs met. And I don't know what those needs are. I can take a guess, but we need to figure out what those needs are and how to meet them, and so that we don't have panhandling on the streets. It's just not the best way to take care of people. We want to, you know, if we want to practice Christian family values, we need to take care of the least among ourselves, and that might be the people panhandling on city streets. I have heard, though, that some people do it just because it's a profitable way to make a living. And if that's the case, well, then I could see we could have a city person next to the panhandler with a little sign that says, this guy already has a nice place, and you don't need to give him any money. But really the solution is to figure out what's going on and address those needs appropriately.
Ms. Islam?
When I become mayor, the first thing I'll do is take down those panhandling sounds around downtown. There is a degree of humility and humanity that we need to use to make sure that all of our communities have that standing, you know, to be taken care of, to be given a lift up. Those signs, unfortunately, put a big stain on our city and how we view people who need assistance. That sign does nothing to impact the actual issue, again, of not having a home.
How do you handle panhandling?
Well, yeah, those signs are from my administration, and they're there because, quite honestly, the challenges with people who are panhandling, it's not monetary challenges. If they need a place to stay, we have shelters. If they need food, we have places that give food. If we have a 1.9% employment. If it's a job issue, we have jobs. If it's a mental health or addiction issue, we have places like the Link. If they need clothes, we have all. And so the resources are there. It's never a cash issue. And so we also have to remember that panhandling is a First Amendment protected freedom of speech. People contact my office almost daily on this issue. What are you doing about all the panhandlers, Mayor? It's a First Amendment right. You can't arrest people from panhandling. You can't make it illegal. But what you can do is encourage people to give to charities that are dedicated to help those folks with the root cause of why they're panhandling. For 2 years, before I was the mayor, I mentored a homeless guy from 2014 to 2016 before he died from addiction. And I can tell you his problems, he made $770 a month on his Social Security check, and he was rich. It wasn't a cash problem. The problems were greater, and what it took was for me to mentor him and not give him money, but give him my time, connect him with services, help him find a place to live, which we did. That's why the Sioux 52 mentorship initiative I launched, I'm so passionate about, because we can be philanthropic with money, but what we need is more people to be philanthropic with their time and help people that are struggling, whether they're panhandling, whether it's our homeless community, whether it's people struggling with addiction. That one-on-one personal interaction, one Sioux Falls, is what we mean by that, is what's going to make the biggest difference in some of those challenges.
If I may, there's a long road to go from homeless and addicted to safe and back integrated into the mainstream of society. And people don't usually make that journey all by themselves, as Paul Tenhaken said. Usually it takes somebody who cares, and it usually takes job services and mental health services and housing services. It's like a year of solid community support to go from troubled to integrated. And we just need to make sure that all those supports are in place. And it's really handy if you can meet one-on-one with somebody that you happen to meet along life and help them to make that journey. I'm trying to help 2 alcoholics right now and make that journey. And let me tell you, it's challenging.
Do that. All right, we got to move.
Add a comment to that too,
Okay.
if that's okay. I can see you guys want to get to the next question, but I'm the executive director of South Dakota Voices for Peace. We work with vulnerable communities. We give them a leg up by providing free immigration legal services. I fundamentally disagree that our nonprofits that they are well resourced and can handle the growing issues in our community. Bishop Dudley, Union Gospel, those guys are at capacity also, right? There's not enough services, and the nonprofit community is so severely under-resourced. We need the city to step in and take leadership of these issues.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to our next question.
Dan sent us this question. What are your plans for police funding? Are you for more funding for training, or are you for defunding the police department? Mr. Tenhaken, we'll start with you.
Well, when George Floyd was murdered in May of 2020, that kicked off a tumultuous 2 years in law enforcement. And I remember coming out very early and saying the defund the police movement was political puffery, I called it. And I took a lot of arrows from people on that. But it was the right thing to say, and it was the right thing to do, not to defund our police department. Because where we sit today in Sioux Falls is we have flat violent crime and property crime per capita numbers. We have a nearly fully authorized strength police department. And we look at other communities that fell into that defunding trap that are having to pay $15,000, $20,000 bonuses to get people to come and be a cop in Minneapolis, in Seattle, in Tallahassee, because their police department has been so unsupported in their community, financially and otherwise. We avoided that here. And some people sitting alongside me today stood on the steps of City Hall calling for me to reform our police. And I said, when you have a bad cop, you deal with that bad cop. Just like when you have a bad teacher, you deal with that bad teacher. But not all teachers are bad. We have an incredible police department here. So we have increased funding to our police department the last 2 years. We broke ground on a $50 million public safety training center. I have the endorsement of the Fraternal Order of the Police for my reelection because they've seen how I've supported them, how I've supported a law and order city. It's why crime is reduced. It's why we have a fully staffed team, and it's why I'm very proud of how we handled the last 2 years when it's been incredibly hard to be in law enforcement.
Ms. Islam, how do you feel about our police department?
The police department is strong in Sioux Falls. We're at full capacity. We have a great new chief who I have a relationship with. As an attorney, I walk alongside and work with our police department to investigate severe crimes for the victims we represent. I have a strong relationship with the police. But as our crime rates are stagnant in violent crimes, our police are trained to handle violent crimes. What we're seeing in our community, let's focus locally, is the rise in mental health calls. When I went on a police ride-along with an officer from the Sioux Falls Department, 100% of the calls that Officer Gooch received were mental health related. Officers are not equipped to handle those types of calls because they're not getting adequate training. We need to think of public safety more innovatively. If we have police departments who are equipped and trained to handle violent crimes, we need other people on this team to help our law enforcement to do their jobs by bringing on social workers, mental health counselors, addiction counselors, to a team that can really meet the actual need of our community now. So I'm not about defunding the police. I'm about resourcing the police with the right people to help them meet the challenges that our community is seeing in this moment.
Mr. Sakaitis.
Police training in South Dakota, the legal requirement is only 13 weeks, 3 months. And that's ridiculous. It's not nearly sufficient for the great variety of different jobs these men and women have, and the emotional stress and the power these people have to destroy your life if they screw up and arrest the wrong person. 3 months is just not enough. I want to support the police by having them have 3 years of training instead of 3 months. And I did a city council PowerPoint on this a couple of years ago. I don't want to defund the police. I want to just give them more training and better experiences, better tools and better techniques so that they can better deal with the wide variety of tasks that they have. If you only have 3 months, you're not going to get much training on mental health issues. You're just not going to do it. And you're not going to have any time for diversity. And you're not going to have a whole lot of time for de-escalation training. And what do you do if there's some crazy guy out there with a knife who's yelling stuff? Do you just give him 5 seconds to drop his weapon and shoot him? Or do you learn how to talk him down and give him some peace? So that's a lot of the background why we need more training for police. I'm also interested in CALEA certification that would help to improve our police department and give them more training and to make sure that they do the job that they were hired to do. But as Mayor Tenhaken said, it's important to deal with occasional bad police. But that's not currently happening with city government right now.
I think it's time for us to take a break here real quick. Sorry to cut you off.
Sorry to cut you off.
We'll be right back here after a little bit. Welcome back to our Sioux Falls mayoral debate. Let's get right back to our viewer questions.
Sioux Falls sustainability plan is now being delayed. Do you think it's a good idea to revamp the plan or get started on some aspects of it?
Tanisa, we'll start with you.
Yeah, you know, this planning process has been really interesting for me. I sit on the Digital Equity Task Force for the city, where the city contracted with another agency to put together a plan, and now community members who are part of that task force have to figure out how to implement it. There seems to be no actual investment from the city, and that's a question I've been asking the director of that department who's in charge of that plan specifically. What is the investment of the city in this plan? And my same question would be, what is the investment of the city in the sustainability plan? Communities members took a year and a half to put that plan together. To delay it now is really just building a severe mistrust in the process that the city has created.
Yeah, so for your viewers who aren't familiar with that, we rolled out a climate and sustainability action plan draft for what we call an open comment period, where anybody could solicit comments, feedback that we didn't maybe catch during the development of that process. And we got a lot of feedback, a ton of feedback, to the point where we said we're going to extend this open comment period the rest of the year, because there were certain industries that felt, hey, we weren't at the table at this. We have some thoughts, some feedback, the energy industry, the gas industry, the building industry. So what you have to do in government is you have to listen to your constituents. And when they say, hey, can we pump the brakes a little bit and have some more time for some more feedback and some more input? Absolutely. Right? The world's not going to blow up if we extend this for 6, 8 more months and make sure that the community is bought into the process.
So you're not seeing it as a delay?
Well, it's not a delay. It's an extension of the open comment period. So it's going to create better government, better policy. Healthy tension is what creates better policy. So when there's a healthy tension around something, that's what leads to good outcomes. So the plan will still go forward at some point, but we're going to have a more broad base of input as a result.
Mr. Zakaitis.
Sustainability is important. We need to take good care of our Earth, or we're just not going to be able to live here forever. On a global scale, we need to reverse global warming so that we don't turn the Great Plains into a dust bowl or a desert. And the city needs to do its part and try to do the best we can, for sure.
Okay, thank you. Joshua asks, what are your views on legalizing recreational marijuana for Sioux Falls, South Dakota? Mayor Ted Hankin.
You know, my view on that topic is I'm going to follow the will of the voters. So if the voters vote to legalize recreational marijuana, it's up to us at the local level to implement that. And that's as simple as that. We've done that with Amendment A, IM26. The voters passed that. And what the voters passed is the ability for local control, for local municipalities to implement that according to what's right for their communities or their counties. We've done that. We've honored the will of the voters. I know there's a little bit of tension over people feeling recreational passed, and then on some technicalities, the Supreme Court threw it out. Confident that if the voters do vote to make recreational law, we'll implement it in Sioux Falls in a very smart and pragmatic fashion.
Mr. Zakaitis.
Recreational marijuana should have been legalized decades ago. If people knew the reality behind criminalizing cannabis, they would just be furious. It's all based on racism, corruption, and power politics. But the South Dakota voters have voted that they want to legalize recreational cannabis, so that's what we should do. The city has tremendous power with a home rule charter and has sometimes overruled state law. So if we can do that with recreational cannabis, that's what we should do. At the very least, the mayor should order the police department to ignore small amounts of recreational cannabis because that's what the voters want. And I don't like it when city government has to go and decide which laws to enforce and which laws to not enforce. But that's a requirement of law enforcement in general, simply because there are so many laws out there that are so commonly broken.
Ms. Islam, your feelings on recreational marijuana?
Yeah, I feel that it's very disingenuous for Mayor Ted Hankin to say that he would follow the will of the people, because the example is right in front of us. 75% of South Dakotans and Sioux Falls residents voted to legalize medical cannabis. And this administration has shown heavy-handed government coming down and really making the process for dispensaries inequitable. It costs a lot of money to get a license. This administration has only allowed 5 dispensaries to be located in our area. And so I find the answer to be disingenuous.
Mayor, would you like to respond?
Yeah, I think I voted for IM26, be on record. Estimates say we have between maybe 7,000 to 8,000 people in this entire state who have a need for a medicinal marijuana card. So how many dispensaries do we need in one city? Do we need 5? Do we need 50 to meet that need for the whole state? Do we need 100? So you can always expand programs in government. You can never retract them. So I look at some things like casinos, video lottery, not against that industry, but there's people who said, man, I would have liked to see a little more slow rollout of video lottery versus a letter buck, and now we can't ever contract and bring that back in. So smart, calm, pragmatic leadership is what you get from me. That's what we did. We honored the will of the voters, which was local control for IM26, and we're going to have 5 dispensaries in this community.
I got to respond. The government of Sioux Falls is actively fighting the will of the people when it comes to medical cannabis. The voters voted for medical cannabis, and instead of reasonable regulations, we've got onerous regulations with a great number of requirements. We have a limit of 5 dispensaries scattered on the outskirts of town, and we have a license that costs $50,000 a year.
We hate to cut you off again, but we have to go to take another commercial break.
Yeah, stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome welcome back to our mayoral debate. They have spent the last hour answering your questions.
Now they have one last chance to try to win your vote. All three Sioux Falls mayoral candidates have 1 minute for a closing statement.
And we're going to begin with Mr. Zakaitis.
I want to create open, honest, practical, caring government. And I wish that was what we had now, but it's not. That's mostly due to expensive elections requiring a lot of politicians to sell out and then not to be very honest about their motivation. But if we can change who pays for elections, we can get honest government, and we can have transparency that's often talked about but not often implemented. We can create affordable housing at scale to take care of a lot of people. We can improve mental health services. We can reduce crime, addiction, and disease by sending people to treatment centers and not to jails. And we can just make government all around more responsive and better for the people at large.
Thank you.
Mr. Tenhaken?
Well, Don, Bridget, all the staff at Hello viewers, thanks for joining us tonight. Hopefully over the last hour you've heard why I'm suited to continue to serve as your mayor. You know, one of the core responsibilities of a mayor is to be a bridge builder, is to be a collaborator. And I've spent the last 4 years doing that. Ms. Islam mentioned that this isn't a partisan office. She's absolutely right. We're not R's or D's in this office. I tell people I'm an M, I'm a mayor, and we have to lead in a way that's best for the entire community. And that requires building bridges with state legislators, building bridges with your state and federal delegation, building bridges with school districts, city councilors, other people in the community who can help advance problems. The government isn't always the answer for those problems. So building those solutions together is how we move Sioux Falls forward. So I'd ask for your vote on April 12th to keep Sioux Falls moving in the right direction through calm, principled leadership.
Thank you. Ms. Islam, you have 1 minute.
Sioux Falls is booming, and we really owe gratitude to the visionaries of the last 30 years for the boom that we're experiencing today. But with the excitement of growth, the city has lost touch with the needs of everyday people. With 64,000 residents living in a food desert, being 4,500 units short on affordable housing, having 4,000 school-aged children at home unsupervised, we are on the cusp of building a big city which will be unsafe and segregated. The opportunity in this moment that we have to not make the same mistakes as big cities have made is to create and reinvest in essential services that residents need to live and prosper. I would be honored to have your votes because my 20-year track record is exactly what Sioux Falls needs in this moment. Thank you.
Thank you all for your time tonight, and that is all the time we have tonight.
And we also want to thank our viewers for all the great questions. And don't forget that the Sioux Falls City election is 1 week from today.
You'll want to be sure to stay with KELOLAND News and KELOLAND.com throughout the day for live coverage and fast, accurate results.
Thanks for watching. Good night.